I'll start off by just kind of talking about an incident this weekend, and we'll start right there. Just I've already released a statement on my behalf, and really don't want to answer any other further questions on it. But obviously, as a head football coach, as a parent, very, very disappointed in what happened. And again, it's something that we coach very hard against, not only football-wise, and is how we act as people. So very, very disappointed, and I'll let my issue, or I'll let that issue take care of itself, and I won't have any further comment on that. Getting back to the Syracuse game, great team win. I think we played some pretty good football. Obviously, in all three phases, we left some plays on the field. You guys can watch the tape. You can watch the TV copy and look and say, okay, woof. But I think defensively it was about as strong as performances we've had this season. Really played well in all phases, and couldn't be happy with the way they played. Offensively, we ran the ball well. Obviously played with the backup tailback, and was happy with what Rodney did. Again, he's still rusty. We could have had some more yards out of him, maybe some better reads and all those things, but he hadn't had that many carries in a long time. And then again, really, Keaton threw, really completed about 70% of his passes. I know everybody, you guys talk after games like, hey, you think about this or think about that. 70% of your passes is pretty good. We'd all like him to complete 90 and 100, and there's probably one, big post above that we wish we would have hit. Wish he'd have saw it. But when you look back, he didn't leave many plays. He had some great passes, on the sideline to Jared Wayne. And again, shouldn't have got sacked once, but it's not on him. The pressure came through. So I was really happy with where he was, and I think he just keeps getting a little bit better every game. I mean, Jared drops one, across the middle. The ball was on the money. Would have had no more, but again, just a cleaner route by the tight end that was supposed to clear out there. Would have just taken that guy out of the way. It would have been maybe a touchdown. So there's some plays, little things like that obviously you're not looking at, and probably as a defensive guy, I'm not looking at as I watch the tape or watch the game live if I don't watch it with our offense. And then on to Virginia, good football team. We know what they look like here. At old Heinz Field last season. Brennan Armstrong is back. Tony Elliott's the head coach there. Brings his Clemson swag into Virginia, and obviously in his first season there. But a good football team. They got capable receivers. That when we walked out of that off that field last season, we were like, that's the best receiving core in the country. Keaton Thompson is really good. They got a kid number 3, Wicks, is outstanding. And again, defensively, they're 4 down and play a lot of quarters and cover 3 and man free and in zone pressure a little bit. Again, I think they're getting better. Every week they step out on the field. Just again, it's a whole new offense for them. It's a new quarterback coach. It's a new defensive coordinator. There's those things. And again, they took, as we know, a really, really good North Carolina football team to the wire last weekend. So that's kind of what we're dealing with. So leave it there and open it up for questions.
What's the difference between Armstrong this year and Armstrong last year?
You know what? It's a change. Jerry, it's a change. I talked about Syracuse last week and what Coach Anae, how good he was and what they did at Syracuse. Brendan's dealing with a new change, and no different than what Keaton's changed. He's got a new offense coordinator, got a new quarterback coach from what he had a year ago, and there's change. And I think anytime there's change, it's hard. That's why, having a consistent coach, being around you and having that is so critical. It doesn't matter what position. So there's change all over that roster as far as just the entire staff is new, I think. I'm not sure that one guy got retained. So that's the biggest difference. He's still a good quarterback, but, it takes time. And it's no different from a guy going from college to go to the NFL and adjusting to an NFL system. It takes time. So nothing's instant. We all like it to be instant. We talked about Keaton and being a grad transfer, a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and it's the same thing for him. It's like being it's like he transferred in there and he's got a whole new staff. So that's what I think it is. He's talented. He can run. He's their leading rusher. Again, you talk about all the quarterbacks we faced this year. Again, another runner. And another guy that obviously a left-hander that can sling the football. And we saw he could make any throw. So.
Pat, just looking at, assuming, like you said, Izzy will be back this week, how do you go about mixing, Izzy and Rodney's carries with both of them kind of rolling at full strength now?
I don't really know. I was going to wait till Thursday and ask Jerry what he wanted to do.
Okay.
See if he'd give me some tips on.
I'll tell you right now.
What do you got?
60-40.
60-40. Okay. So again, we know we got capable guys back there, and you see it, I see it. We got an offensive line, so change up is not bad, and we obviously want to keep Izzy healthy as well. And so 60-40, Jerry says. So try to get it right.
Speaking of the running game, Gavin hasn't been targeted all that much this season. Is it because he's stayed in the block a lot for the ground game?
There is. I mean, there is, and it depends on how much you're dropping back. And we'd like to get him the ball more. There's no question. We'd like to get it to Bub Means more. Like if you go back and watch the tape, I mean, there's a big post that if we just lay that thing out there, it's going to be a 60, 70-yard touchdown. We'd like to get it to everybody. But when you're running the ball a little bit more than you're throwing it, then that's going to happen. And we'll see. There was one he was open, and we got to get it to him as well. There's probably another one.
Talking about Rodney and Izzy, Sebo obviously had a breakout game on Saturday. Do you envision him working a little bit more in, even with Izzy coming back and with Rodney running the way he is?
We'd like to. I mean, you obviously, we've had faith in him in practicing. When you get him out there in the game and you turn him loose and you see what he can do, it's just juggling it all. So, the plan is always to get those guys in there, and then, you kind of see how the thing's rolling. And I hate to make any promises to anybody. I mean, if Izzy feels good, we want to give him his touches. Rodney, Sebo, Vince. I mean, it's a good problem to have, I guess.
When you're in the course of a game, you're obviously focused on a lot of football things, but do you allow yourself sort of a personal, like Sebo said, it was almost a relief for him to finally score that first touchdown here. Did you kind of feel for him, like sort of, enjoy it for him, or you just?
I really did. It's funny, talk about players of the game, and he, I think, was an unsung hero, that drive, and it was like the Sebo drive I told the kids last night, and, the kids cheered for him, last night here, to me, there was a different mood on the sideline even when he was out there, because everybody's used to Izzy running and Rodney, all of a sudden it was a different guy out there, and our guys, they're happy for guys when they're seeing success, and they know the frustrations of being a backup and maybe not playing as much, and they see it, they feel it, they see it in the weight room, they see it, in the dining facility, maybe study hall, like, frustrations, and sometimes you just got to wait through the process, and the time is coming. Sebo's done a great job on special teams, and he's got another year eligibility, and I hope he decides to take it, because I think he's a really good football player, and I think he's only going to continue to get better with having a spring we talked about last week. So everybody is generally excited when guys like that get their opportunity and then make good off of it.
Statistically, Brent Armstrong seems to be better. He's this season throwing to his left side, the left sideline, rather than down the middle part of the field like he was last year. Have you noticed anything different that you guys have been able to key on and say, hey, if we do this, he's going to have a harder game?
Nothing that I'm going to sit here and discuss. I mean, now you made Virginia go back and look. Guys, he's throwing to the left more than he's throwing to the right. What's he doing? Maybe now they're all going to throw to the right. So there's really nothing. I mean, is it by chance? Is it he's throwing good balls to his right? He's throwing to his left. He's throwing to the field. He's throwing it to the boundary. He's throwing it to a guy. Who's he throwing it at? Who's the corner over there? What's the matchup? I mean, there's a lot of things that you can look into, and Tony can look into, but we got to defend him. We don't know where he's going to throw for sure. We're not going to drop 8 guys to his left or to his left and our right to try to. That wouldn't be really good.
You brought up Tony Elliott. Do you see any shades of the previous years in Clemson's offense in what Virginia does? You
do, and we've got obviously a 4-game breakdown on Clemson, which he was there the whole time. So just looking back, like, what do? We know we're going to get a crack and go. I mean, it's something we've seen, every year. We saw one last week and defended it well, but that doesn't mean you're not going to see it again. So there's always, I mean, he's the head coach. He's he's the offensive coordinator / head coach, and he's going to have some say of what's going on in there. I can't imagine him hanging around in the defensive staff room, just like I'm not hanging around in the offensive staff room too much. I go in there and do my GA jobs and give him some self-scout stuff and and get out of there and go back to the offense or the defense. So I mean, I can imagine him say he's going to be involved in the offense, and but he's going to he's going to let his guys coach as well.
Pat, I noticed 3 guys competing for the starting spot at punter this week. There's 2 oars between those 3 names. Do you anticipate bringing more than 1 punter on the road roster this week?
Possibly. You said 1 punter on the road.
More than 1.
Yeah, we usually always bring 2.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, but really, EJ didn't put on the depth chart what I told him to. I wrote on there, he said any updates. I wrote on there, I said, those 3, and I put another award. I said Pat Narduzzi, because I think I might be able to go out there and, hit it pretty good. If you go back and check those records at Ursuline back in the day, as a backup punter, and so maybe I messed them all up. But, again, we, like I said the other day, Sam came in, did a nice job on the that last sky punt. Not where we want it to be as far as the direction, but did a nice job putting one at the 1. We'd like the other one to be inside the 10. That's kind of his. So that's his role right now. We'll see how those other guys do at that this weekend. We'll see, or this week I should say. And then, when you look at Cam and you look at Junk, I mean, both of them have legs, and it's just we're gonna find out what they do this week. So it's an or right now. Maybe Sam Van Haar goes out there and kills it this week, but it's an or, and there's a battle going on there, as I think we all see. And again, it's not all the punter's fault. The high snap, and Cam's got to jump for it and then punts it 2 yards. I mean, that was ugly, and that punt team has not been a pretty sight this year. And obviously, when you lose your starter, that's been starting for whatever it was 4 years for Kirk. It's something that we've got to work through, and it's not good enough right now. But by the end of the year, we'll have our guy for next year. I guarantee you that. But it's taken a while, and it's not easy sitting back there. Not only is it a new punter, it's a new snapper as well.
Now that you've had time to look back at the Syracuse game, what did you see from your linebackers, the guys controlling the middle part of the field that allowed them to attack better?
Yeah.
Against Syracuse?
You know what? They were in the locker room down in North Carolina. The linebackers, the DBs, and their little huddles. They sometimes get together with their coach afterwards and weren't happy. I think I told you that last week, and it was just a heck of a lot more detail. And they let the thing get away from them, and that happens in a game. I mean, things start to happen. Obviously, we got after the D line too. I mean, they put pressure on the quarterback. They took care of it to the point where the linebackers didn't have to worry about it. And I think anytime that stuff happens, when you're worried about a scrambling quarterback, you got a problem. And again, Armstrong can scramble as well. And like I said, leading rusher, those aren't all quarterback runs, but they do like to have designated quarterback runs for them, whether it's counter, just zone read keeps or insert keeps. But it was so much more detail. When you watch the reroutes on the receivers couldn't get started. As soon as they got started, they got rerouted, pushed out of the way. It makes it everybody's job easier. They just didn't, they paid attention to the details, and sometimes you lose the details when other things are happening to you. You get distracted during a game by something else that you shouldn't be, but it's understandable too. So when everybody does their job, it sometimes looks like the secondary wasn't very good, against North Carolina, or the linebackers not very good, but then, we weren't very good up front either. So it just trickles downhill.
I know you can't be in every one of those huddles. Were there players that you saw kind of being louder, or at least more, controlling in those conversations to help everyone else more than others?
Yeah, I mean, I think the DBs, I think, when you think passing yards and what just happened today, it falls on them, because they don't care what the linebackers do. They're just looking at like what happened, and I didn't cover my guy, or they don't sometimes, especially after a game, standing in the shower having a little huddle, realize really what happened to them until they watch the tape. Just like sometimes standing on the sideline, you don't realize what happened. But I think, they take it personal, and but we all do, and whether it's the front all the way back to the secondary, we're all as coaches too take it personal, and you love it when your players take it personal.
Pat, you brought up the mood after the North Carolina game. After the game, I noticed Haba was sitting in the tunnel, kind of just looking out at the field. He took a moment to himself. I don't know if you saw this or anything, or talked to him since, but he came back last week, got a half a sack, kind of got himself back and going. Just what have you seen from him this season, and just kind of how he's put together this year?
Yeah, I mean, Haba had, he had a half a sack. He had an arm around the neck. He got a nice, holding call. Haba's been outstanding. And again, sometimes, for all these All-American lists, you just look at, numbers. But like I've talked to a lot of scouts that walked through here and said, they see almost the strips, the almost. And that's what they want to see is, again, it's all great for, the magazines and all that to have these, big numbers, but, they're looking for football players that, pay attention to the details. And Haba's about the details. And, if there's one guy, and again, Desmond had a heck of a day, if there's one guy that's really been as detailed as anybody at that defensive end spot, it's been Haba. So we've been happy with where he is, and, he just, he wants to go make plays, and he'd like to get those stats like everybody would. Jared like to be, voted the best media guy here in the city of Pittsburgh, really, Western Pennsylvania. We'd all like those accolades, but you just got to keep working, Jerry, and it'll happen for you, okay? You're the best. You're the best.
He's already got it.
He's already got it? Read more.
Before Saturday, your pass rush was good, but it was great on Saturday. Were those guys, they play that game with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, if we can get to the quarterback, we can put them down?
Yeah, I mean, they were good. I mean, I just, again, it's like I told Coach Partridge, great job getting them angry, for what, I mean, there were some angry guys maybe in that room. And again, just, you can tell them they got to do it. And again, let's just say maybe the offensive line's not as talented as North Carolina's was, but, it's hard to say what, why, how. But nobody cares what happened at Syracuse. We're all worried about, what we do at Virginia this weekend, because you guys won't be talking about the pass rush if we don't get any this weekend.
You mentioned earlier that you hope Sebo comes back for another season because he has that extra year of eligibility. Do you have a sense of what Keaton wants to do next year, or where he plans to be?
Haven't really had that conversation. Just, I think, let's let the season play out. Really have not had it. And you got senior day in 2 weeks, so we'll have to figure it out soon who's going to walk out to who's not. And again, as you guys know, some guys will walk out for senior day and some guys won't, and doesn't mean they aren't gone either. So it's, there's decisions to be made for a lot of people come the end of the season.
Now, you talked about Sebo and his potential to come back next year. He's obviously currently, behind Izzy, behind Rodney in terms of pecking order. In today's day and age with NIL and with transfer portal and all this and the way that college football goes, is it more challenging to kind of, I don't want to say convince players to stay or, keep them happy by any means, but is there a little bit of that in there with, everything that kind of the way things are going nowadays?
There's no question. I mean, we've done a great job of keeping our guys for the most part. Some get recruited off campus and all that, and we all know that. But I think when you got a happy place to work, you guys got a happy place to work, it's easy to stay. But I think the longer this name, image, and likeness thing goes on, and the more you read about it, and the more you kind of look around, and the kids are different nowadays than they were 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 12 years ago. And everybody's got somebody in their ear, so you certainly worry about it, but you can't control it. Our job is to win football games, put the best guys on the field to win football games, period. And that's what we have to do.
Anything final?
If you got to go out and punt, then we'll put you on the field to punt.
Is your knee okay to punt?
Yeah, my right knee's good.
Do you sense the team, you're really pushing for these last 3 games to turn the season into something good?
No, I don't see that at all. Because it's the same every week. I don't. They nothing has really changed. It's one at a time, and I know that sounds cliche, and you guys are looking at me like I'm crazy, but it's all about Virginia this week. And there's really, if we saw our guys like, oh, let's get a push for this, like it'd be like, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you push before? Like you don't see it like that. It's just, I don't. It just, if I saw it like that, I'd be upset. I'd be really upset if that was the case. Like you didn't want to push it, a few weeks ago. You didn't want to push it against Georgia Tech. I mean.
Has the push always been there?
I think so. I think, in their minds, yes. I mean, is there, if you dig deep, is there something back there, or someone said something to them like, hey, this is going to be neat. You guys patting them on the back saying they look real good. Guys up on campus saying, hey, you look great. How do you handle success? How do you handle adversity? Those are all things that we talk about all the time. But everybody handles it a different way, and you got to make sure they're all on the same page. And that's my job, to make sure that they're together and they get it. And sometimes it goes in one ear and out the other. Try my best.
On the leadership point, as far as guys stepping up, I know that one thing you guys have been able to rely on, linebacker position specifically, are guys who know your system, know what they're supposed to do, know what they're supposed to be. Last year you had Phil, you had John, you had those guys. And this year you got Voss. But Voss is a guy who might not be here much longer. What have you seen from some of those younger guys who are stepping up to kind of understand their roles and be playmakers.
If you look where they are right now compared to where they were against West Virginia, it's night and day. As you can see, I mean, you know, the 25 yards rushing last weekend was, I think someone mentioned after the game, you know, is that the best performance ever? You know, it's in the top 5, you know, but I think, you know, RJ, EJ's great assistant, gave me a stat, like there's been 16 times where we've held a team underneath 100 yards, I think. And so that's, you know, we've held some of the -1 yards rushing, won't get into their name. But like, you know, like we've done that before. Like that's what we want to do. That's what we should do. But when you look at what we did, you know, in the rushing game the last few weeks compared to what we looked like against West Virginia, you know, they've all grown up. And Voss didn't necessarily grow up, you know, this season. So it's some of the young guys and new guys that we have on our football team. And, you know, Solomon DeShields keeps getting better. But Gali keeps getting better. And, you know, all those reps are so valuable that you just can't get them in practice. They don't happen.